All right, here we go. Sunday afternoon, June 12th. I'm back in New York City having a good time in the basement under our old Little Flowers Cafe. And I am lucky to be talking to John from Zaprite. I've called him, I'm saying it, he is the nicest guy in Bitcoin. That is John. He is the nicest freaking guy in Bitcoin. And he's putting it all on Bitcoin. We're going to talk about it in a little bit in terms of, moving, coming to Austin, his journey with Zaprite and everything that he's doing. It's a Sunday afternoon. I'm lucky to be here with you, John. And how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Moose. Thanks for that awesome intro. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm hanging out here in Austin, and it's a beautiful day. And it's always a beautiful day when you're working on Bitcoin.
All right, very cool. So what we're talking about with Bitcoin is probably the least sexy thing on the planet. Okay, we are talking about a necessary evil. Everyone has to deal with it. Accounting, invoicing, things of this nature. That is what Zaprite. Is. Do you feel like you're in a sexy business? You're making it sexy though.
Well, hopefully we're going to make it sexy and we're going to make it easy. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things that people, they dread doing their end of year taxes and accounting and all that kind of stuff. So definitely not a sexy industry, but let's try and make it awesome on Bitcoin.
All right. So first off, can you give us a 30,000 foot overview on what is Zaprite and why you set out to start this company?
Absolutely. So basically, the bird's eye view, what the product is it's really a simple suite of tools that allows you to accept Bitcoin and manage that Bitcoin and run your life on a Bitcoin standard, whether you're a freelancer, a contractor, or a small business. We just give you these really simple tools and this beautiful UI UX to be able to, like I said, run your life or your business on a Bitcoin standard and manage everything that comes along with that and all the tools and things that you might need to do that. So that's a very simple kind of explanation of it. And I guess where it all started from, I've been a freelancer contractor pretty much all my life since I came out of art college back in Ireland. And I have been doing graphic design, web design, UI, UX, that type of thing, web development. And a couple of years ago, maybe around end of 2018, start of 2019, I actually started working for Bitcoin companies. Started working for Bull Bitcoin in Canada. I basically just spent a weekend kind of randomly just like redoing their UI UX at home, thinking I could do like a good job, sent it to Francis, the CEO, and he said, "This is awesome, like let's hire you to do some work." So that was kind of the start of it. I started to get paid by Bitcoin companies doing UI UX, and I needed like proper invoicing software to do that, to send them an invoice. And I've been using run a Casa node. I had one of the very first Casa nodes. I was trying to run BTC Pay server and everything else. And, these tools were awesome, but it was just really, really difficult to get what I needed to get to send a proper invoice and have it look good and professional and get all the emails sent out and everything. And so I had this idea that I wanted to, build as a kind of first step into Bitcoin, was to build my own invoicing platform. And then in the kind of start of the summer of 2020, when the world kind of shut down and I was sitting at home thinking like, what am I going to do? I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to start something. So I built Zaprite, and the idea was to really just kind of get used to building, a modern web stack, like modern like web app, and see if I could get it to work, build something that worked and was useful. And I did, and it was great for me. And then it was kind of just a weekend, like hobby, evening weekend project. And then eventually left Canada, where I was living last September, made it down to Austin. And very quickly when I landed here, I realized that Austin is kind of the center of everything Bitcoin that's going on right now. And yeah, I quickly realized that I had a product that, people were really digging. They found a use case for it. A lot of people immediately when they saw it, they're like, they could use that. Absolutely. Um, and so yeah, spun up a US corporation and decided to do a whole proper Bitcoin startup journey. So that's kind of the road to where Zaprite started and what brought me here and what brought me to Austin.
All right, really cool. So again, you heard it. This is a perfect example. John was a freelancer, doing graphic design, web stuff, working for himself, needed to invoice clients and customers. It's a clunky, horrible process. Anyone who's done it, still, it's terrible. Even in fiat normie land, it's not a good process, right? So built out of necessity, which is key and which is really cool, right? Started this for himself, built an invoicing platform. So from Canada to Austin, right? Austin is now home. And you have a pretty thick accent there. Can you talk about where you're from and what's the visa status? You had mentioned something to me earlier before we started, as far as investing and that whole journey goes. Do you want to touch on some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the accent is Irish. So originally from Ireland, born and raised, spent most of my life in Ireland, and about 13 years ago at this stage, I moved to Canada, just kind of, picked up the laptop and wanted to take myself and my freelance work to a ski resort where I could ski for 6 months and, live that life. And fell in love with the outdoor adventure lifestyle. I was mountain biking in the summer and rock climbing, paddleboarding, and then like skiing and everything in the winter. And, summer went into winter, went into summer, went into winter. And 12 years later, I'm still in Canada. So I ended up getting my citizenship in Canada as well. So I'm a dual Irish Canadian citizen. So when I came down in September to Austin, I come in across the border on the Canadian passport. So that kind of we get a 6 month holiday visa on that. So it's a little easier to stay a little bit longer, and then you can renew to extend that and stuff. But it's still kind of, still kind of a lot that you need to go through and hoops you need to jump through to get like a longer permanent stay. Like we still got to kind of like leave, and we're only allowed to spend a certain amount of time. So right now I'm actually going through one of the kind of best ways for me to like stay longer is because of Zaprite. I actually have the opportunity to do what's called an investor visa. So I can basically invest a chunk of money of my own personal money, like up to 75K into Zaprite. And so that kind of, qualifies for a visa to the US once you can show that you've actually put funds into your own business and you got skin in the game and the funds are at risk. Like that's kind of enough for the US visa to kind of give you a visa then based on or US immigration to give you a visa based on that particular startup that you're working on. So that's the kind of route that I'm going through right now. And hopefully, yeah, fingers crossed, I'll get that in the next kind of month or two. And that will give me, a few years at least to stay and continue to work on Zaprite. And that's the long-term goal because, you've been here, you've been to Austin, you've seen what goes on here. It's ground zero for Bitcoin development, and there's no other place I'd rather be right now with any kind of a startup, but particularly with a Bitcoin startup. It just, you need to be in Austin.
All right, so we're definitely going to talk about Austin. We're going to talk about Pleb Lab, and you're definitely a friend of the Pleb Lab and the hackathon this weekend. Definitely going to get to that. So do you or anyone in your family, did they have any accounting by trade? Does anyone in your family had anything in this world before, or was this straight born out of necessity for yourself?
It was born out of necessity for myself. There's nobody in my family that has accounting background. I mean, even myself, I wouldn't say traditionally I have any formal training in accounting, but being self-employed and freelancer for best part of like 2 decades, I've always done my own bookkeeping. I've done like most of my own tax returns and stuff. So I'm very accountancy minded. And particularly as a freelancer contractor, I kind of know the struggles that like people go through trying to balance their books on an ongoing basis and do their tax returns, and even just general accounting to know is your business in a healthy state? Like what's your cash flow like? What's your balance sheet look like? You know, a lot of these things are, you know, a lot of freelancers don't necessarily do a lot of this stuff. But I think because it is incredibly like boring, frustrating, you know, expensive at times. But I think particularly on a Bitcoin standard, you know, even if we move to a Bitcoin standard, like we all hope we do and assume that we are going to, you still need accounting. You know, any business really needs to have accounting to know if they're actually running a healthy business. So these things aren't going to go away even on a Bitcoin standard. And one of the things that, you know, I started thinking about a lot after I built the MVP and the invoicing part of it. There's a whole bunch of other tools that can like spin off from that, and I'm starting that we could chat about those in a little bit as well. That, you know, now that I've got the kind of framework set up, there's a bunch of other tools that can be easily spun out. But one of the biggest things I started to think about was the actual accounting side of it, because, you know, we've got this, you know, 700-year-old double entry bookkeeping system that really hasn't changed like at all in 700 years. And I don't think it's going to be enough to just add like BTC as a new currency into like QuickBooks or something like that. I think we actually fundamentally have to change how all this software is built and is run, because now we've got, you know, UTXOs, and we've got like, you know, transactions with inputs, outputs, fees, like multi-signature, like, you know, all the stuff with Taproot DLCs like coming down the line. I think we really need a native Bitcoin accounting system. And I don't think, like I said, it's enough to just kind of like bolt Bitcoin on as a new payment rail inside other accounting systems. And so that really just kind of got me excited, if I could use that word, about accounting, even though I'm not an accountant and it's not generally an exciting field, as you rightly mentioned. But when you think about all the innovation that's been done in the last 10 years, and particularly in the last 2 or 3 years on Bitcoin, there's some phenomenal innovation done and amazing tools built that will allow people to start using Bitcoin more. And, you know, promoting the circular economy and getting businesses earning it, spending it, paying people, doing payroll. So I think the accountancy space for Bitcoin is just going to be huge over the next decade. I think that's, you know, that's really, as more businesses like migrate over to Bitcoin and start accepting it. I think the opportunity there is to build like a really kick-ass tool, not like it's the go-to, you know. That's pretty much everybody will know they need to get like Zaprite, because Zaprite is the #1 tool that you need if you're on a Bitcoin standard, if you're earning Bitcoin and spending Bitcoin. So that's kind of where my mind went with all that. Once I set up Zaprite and, you know, started using it myself as 100% Bitcoin. I mean, my personal life is pretty much almost 100% Bitcoin only, has been for a few years. Running Zaprite, I want to run it as 100% Bitcoin only business. And so the invoicing part of it, while the MVP is great, we've got the invoicing there, you very quickly realize that like you need all these other tools to actually run your business if you are on a 100% Bitcoin standard.
Okay, so a couple of things here. Full disclosure, I actually used Zaprite for Unconfiscatable. Had a chance to play around with the invoicing for our sponsors and everything. Hope I got you some feedback in that process. I remember I had a few notes for you.
Yeah.
But it worked beautifully. It worked beautifully. It was absolutely great. It cost me nothing. I think we're going to get into some monetization strategies here in a minute here. But I used it. I loved it. Got a couple of other friends who are using it and have nothing but good things to say. It's sleek. The website feels great. It acts great. Was a great experience. Okay, so we're gonna bounce around. Let's talk about some other use cases. Okay, so ticketing, donations, other giving sort of things. I think you were teasing on this a minute ago. What are some of the other use cases and other things besides kind of invoicing that you have kind of percolating in the back burner for Zaprite?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things you can do right now when you set up a Zaprite account is you can snag a unique username. So we have that ability right now. At the moment, there's no functionality built around that, you can at least like secure that username, unique username for yourself. And so what we're going to do then in the future is, number one, we'll just give everybody a Lightning address based on that. We'll have, it'll just be like John at zaprite.me or whatever username you take. So that's kind of just like the simple step number one. But then this whole idea of the zaprite.me domain name will like kind of spill out from that. So what we're going to do is then, the current MVP that's there at the moment is more like, think of that as more of your own kind of like private information. That's where you log in, you add your contacts, you kind of create your invoices. That's where you'll see all your accounting dashboards and all that kind of stuff. But the zaprite.me will then be the public facing part of your profile. So everybody, when you get that username, you will now get like, it'll just be, ltng.ventures.zaprite.me. So you now have your own subdomain running on zaprite.me. And then of course, from that, we can spill off like /pay. You'll get just a standard payment link, a payment page where you can just accept one-off payments for like anything you might want to do. You'll get /POS. You'll have a full POS system that you can be publicly facing, that you can, your server in your coffee shop or whatever can just pull open their phone and start, taking invoices directly on their phone. It'll just go straight through to your Zaprite POS. Sorry, yeah, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I have a quick question. So, okay, so we're playing around with this this Bitcoin Blitz chess thing, right? And we would love to have a quick, easy little store thing. Are you saying that that's a way to, with that slash, put up a few items in kind of like a makeshift ad hoc storefront and use the product or service in that way?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So those type of tools will be the first kind of iteration of a POS. We'll have a basic, POS like, Ebex or Gala or any of those, where you can basically just hit a URL and you'll get like your digits 1 to 0, 1 to 9. You can actually like just punch in any amount. It'll give you a QR code right there and then, and it'll just pay to whatever wallet you've got connected. But then the next step of that is you can actually, from the private part of the Zaprite app, which is like app.zaprite.com right now, where you do your invoicing, you'll have a little tab where you can just have, we'll call it payment links or like store or checkout, something like that. And you can actually go in and kind of like list products. You can just attach an image, attach a price, and just hit publish. And so that's where the zaprite.me will be the public facing side of that, where if you go to /store, maybe you can see all a list of your products. Or if you go, /donations, /crowdfunding, like we can have all these like public facing pages where you can add these, campaigns or events or like ticket sales and stuff like that in the app.zaprite.com backend, and then they'll show up under your own custom zaprite.me front end as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, let's talk about monetization strategies. That's kind of the elephant in the room, right? That's where those are the most questions that we had submitted is about. And it's a tough one. It's a tough question to answer. So how does this amazing free service, right? And I also want to talk about the integrations and who's live right now and all the different ways that you can pay, because it's not just Bitcoin, right? It simplifies a lot of other things. We can talk about the credit card integration, which I don't think is live yet, but it should be live very soon. So yeah, let's do that. You want to go over some of the integrations that you have right now live and what's coming?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The credit card integrations is live. Pushed that live, I think last week, or maybe the week before. That's basic Stripe integration. So if you have a Stripe account, it's just like one click connect. You can connect it into Zaprite. And so on your invoice, you can now offer your customers the option of Bitcoin or credit card. And if they pay by credit card, it will go straight into your Stripe account. So that's like a really cool feature that, you might have a bunch of like, non-Bitcoiner, like no coiner clients that, don't have Bitcoin or can't pay with Bitcoin. So right now you can actually, offer them that, Bitcoin or credit card payments. So you don't have to use another service like to do that side of it as well. So yeah, if you can click in there and you can activate the Stripe connection. So as you can see, we've got Strike in there as well. So Strike allows you to basically just connect your Strike account, add your Strike username, your handle, and then your payments go directly straight through into Strike too.
So then I connect my Stripe account.
Yeah, so you'll basically just punch in your email on that page that you use for your Stripe account.
So I can't remember that login right now, but that's really cool. So that's totally new.
Yeah,
that's definitely.
That's only in the last kind of week or 10 days. I think I can't remember the exact date. There's been so much going on in the last week or two. So yeah, that's a new one. The Strike one has been there, I think, since March, maybe like 2 or 3 months. So that one is a really cool, simple, just put in your username, whatever your handle is.
I can't remember what it is. I think it's that. I'm so curious to test it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. That's really cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, we can test it here live on the video if you want. If that's your correct account, you can shoot over an invoice and I'll pay it and you can see it drop into your account.
I'm actually just going to open up the Strike app on my phone and make sure. Yeah, that's it. The Muzzman. All right. So can I send you an invoice or is that crazy?
Yeah, no, you can do that. Yeah, basically, you can jump into contacts and probably add me as a new contact.
Yeah, let's just do the process here for the heck of it.
Yes, just put in John Zaprite, something like that. You just john@zaprite.com should be fine for the email. And then the rest of the stuff you don't need to put in because you can do that later on the invoice itself. So yeah, you can leave it in US dollars.
That's interesting with the tax rate.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, so you can obviously leave that at 0 or put in if you're collecting taxes in whatever state or country you're in, you can add that in there as well, and you'll see that on the invoice. So yeah, for the line item, you can just punch in test invoice or whatever you want to do.
Okay, I'm gonna hit you for $2. Is that cool?
Go for it. Yeah.
Love it. We're getting paid. This is paid sponsorship here.
Yeah.
That's cool. So now, do I toggle this or is that already on?
Yeah. So
No, I have to toggle
on.
it. Okay, there we go.
And then you can toggle off Bitcoin. Otherwise, it's going to ask you for an address and it'll bork out. So
got it.
Just leave on Strike. So that'll give you a little preview there of the invoice.
Cool. I love it. My feedback on this is the customization for your own logo and those things. What's up with that?
So I think we can do that too, actually. If you want to go back to go up to your account, the little account user icon in the top right of the app.
This guy or this guy?
I think so. It's kind of blocked by the videos here on Zoom, but yeah, there you go. So company, click on company. Oh, it's just the top right. That's all good. Yeah, click on company, and there you go.
Oh, I see. Look at that. You can put it in there.
Yeah, so
that's so cool.
You can throw a logo up there.
That's so cool. Wow. Okay. I hope we didn't just lose all of our viewers.
Well, we can snip this out as a separate video. If
we'll have some fun.
Show it as a demo. We'll have some fun, and then
we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So ideally, you probably actually want to maybe just go and check, did that logo come through? It may not have. Sorry, you need to go back, and I think there might be a little glitch.
Well, I'm sending it.
Send away. Yeah, perfect. I think if you go back and just hit update again on the branding, it'll come through.
That's pretty cool, man.
That's pretty much it. So I'll just check my email.
All right. So that's going to come across to you. And how's that look?
Yeah, I don't know if I can share my screen and show what it looks on my end.
Yeah, that's it right there.
It's oh yeah, there you go. Already clicked on it. Yeah, so that's it. So I got this nice little email. Payment request, invoice 10, $2. Let's review and pay. So I got this nice hosted page. So here's where your branding would come in if you had the logo in, and you could change your CSS colors to whatever colors you want. So that would replace any of the green that you see there would be like all your branding. So I can now go and click on pay invoice. And here's my $2 invoice straight away hitting the Strike API. Now the good thing about this is I don't actually have a Strike account because they won't let me have one because I don't have a social security number. So the beauty is I can actually pay this with any Lightning wallet. And as I scan it here, it should, I've just
Look at
paid that
that.
from
You've
wallet
received
of,
$2.
you got that on your phone, right on, yeah. And I just paid that from
Wow.
my wallet of Satoshi, and then you see my front end here as the payer, like that changes and shows the transactions being confirmed on my side with the Satoshis and the USD bond. So that's my kind of receipt. And if I go back into my email, I should get a receipt at some stage, and then you should get an email on your side as well, just to notify you that that your it looks like my receipt doesn't come through here, so maybe there's an issue with that. We'll need to check out, but I'll stop sharing mine and I'll let you go back to share yours, and then you should see the transaction history and everything stamped into your history on your account.
Well, it's just because as you were talking, it showed up here as paid. You know what I mean? Like I didn't do anything. I didn't even refresh this page and
Yeah,
it
there you
shows
go.
up as paid. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
exactly. Yeah.
awesome.
And then if you go into your activity tab there on the left, you can see the transaction down the bottom, and then it's repeated on the activity on the left. If you click into that, and then you
Oh,
can
I
see,
see.
and then if you click the little looking glass search icon there over on the right, it'll give you kind of more breakdown. So you can see, you know, the invoice, the contact it was connected to, the invoice it was connected to, the USD rate, timestamp, and all that stuff. So this is where we'll build out like the accounting functionality on top of this, and we'll be able to add expense tracking in there as well. And so that dashboard that you're looking at now, we'll be able to build out some more charting features, so you can just see some basic, you know, income, expenditure, that type of thing, you know, on that page. And that's where we'll start to kind of build out a couple of cool accounting features. So
Really
yeah,
awesome. Okay, so here we go. Well, that was a fun little detour.
yeah.
So look, the product works great. It's awesome, and that credit and debit card deal is kind of a game changer too.
It is,
Lot of fun.
yeah. I think as I mentioned before, it's kind of a cool, you know, fallback that you can offer for your normie clients who aren't paying in Bitcoin just yet. So, you know, if you're a freelancer or contractor and you want to start accepting Bitcoin, but you think you might only get one in every 10 invoice or one in every 50 or how many you send out, you can now offer that like fallback on the credit card stuff. And then, as I was mentioning before, OpenNode are actually demoing, they're closed beta testing a plugin in the Stripe App Store right now, where you can connect OpenNode via plugin to your Stripe account, and you can actually toggle a percentage. And so every single credit card payment that hits your Stripe account can be auto converted into Bitcoin. So that's OpenNode are going to push that live. You know, it could be anytime soon. So when that happens, you know, that's huge. Now that we have the credit card integration in Zaprite, it means users, even if their invoices are getting paid in credit card, they'll get like deposited straight into Bitcoin. So that's really cool, and that's really kind of the, you know, the benefit of Zaprite. It's really what I was trying to go for, is because we're non-custodial, we're no KYC right now. You know, that may change in the future if we need to offer KYC products like payroll or some other stuff like KYB for businesses and things. Like, we can look at that, but right now you just need an email address to sign up. And the idea behind it is you can plug anything you want into Zaprite. Like, as we saw on that payments page, you can connect your Stripe account, your Strike account. You can connect your own like Umbrel or MyNode or anything like node you've got running at home. You can connect through LN Bits. You can, you know, connect voltage. We're working on a voltage integration. where you'll be able to spin up nodes. So anybody that wants to come to Zaprite and create a new account and they want to accept Lightning, but they don't want to run a node or do anything like that, we'll have one-click integration where you can just create a voltage account and spin up nodes on the fly whenever you need them. And then, as I was mentioning before, we did a little kind of at the Bitcoin Plus Plus hackathon over Thursday, Friday. I teamed up with some of the Galloway guys that were there, and we actually plugged in a Galloway Bitcoin Beach integration. I think there's a video on that went online under the Bitcoin Plus Plus or Base 58 YouTube channel. You get a quick demo, although it's kind of hard to see in the screen. But the idea there is kind of similar to the Strike account, where somebody, say in El Salvador, can now connect their Bitcoin Beach wallet, very similar to what you just went through with the Strike integration. They just activate it, add in their username, click connect, and that's it. And now anytime someone goes to pay an invoice, it'll ping the Galloway API, create a Lightning invoice, and they'll just get deposited straight into their Bitcoin Beach wallet. So the fact that we can have all these like different connections, and we just allow it completely to the discretion of the user, whether they want to be, fully self-custodial, non-KYC, they could just plug in their node over LN-Bits at home, or whether they want to use their Strike account where they're KYC'd or their Stripe account, it's completely up to them. But that's the beauty of Zaprite. It's just a fully just connect and go. That's it. Just connect whatever wallet it is, and we'll just offer all the UI UX payment rails around that.
So what about some of the bigger ones? What about like Cash App? I know that there's a Venmo for business. I don't know what their like sandbox sort of API deal is, but I know that there's some type of Venmo for business. I have no idea. Square doesn't work with anyone, so they're pretty much out, right? But what about some or PayPal, these type of things? Is there any hope for those things being integrated with Zaprite, or are you going a different direction altogether?
So I mean, that's a great question. That's something that I kind of struggle with, because even with the Stripe integration, I kind of told myself early on, like I wasn't going to integrate any like payment rails that make it easier to move fiat around. I wanted it to be Bitcoin only. I wanted this to be a tool to promote Bitcoin and get people to use Bitcoin and adopt Bitcoin. And so I wasn't thinking about Venmo, PayPal, any of that stuff. But then, of course, OpenNode announced their integration with Stripe, where they can allow, like I said, direct payments into OpenNode. And that got me thinking, okay, right, I'll integrate Stripe. That seems to make sense now, to allow users that ability and have that, like, at least give users one type of credit card system that they can handle. The Venmo, PayPal, not really interested in adding those right now. If there's enough user feedback to do that in the future, I'll do it for sure. But right now, in terms of Cash App, yeah, I'd love to get Cash App in. That would, 70 million users, whatever it is in the US, like that would be phenomenal. And I've been trying to talk to them whenever I see them at events and stuff in Austin, and chat to like Miles and anyone that turns up. But they just don't have anything ready right now. They don't have an API that you can actually integrate for something that I am trying to do. At least not on the kind of Cash App payment side of it. They do have other APIs that work for different things, but not for what I'm going to do. So I think it's only a matter of time. Hopefully that will come in. And then that will just be a straight up integration, the same as Strike or Bitcoin Beach or any of those. It would just be attach your username and away you go. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the integrations, like, user feedback will dictate a lot for sure. My own personal opinion, I'm a hardcore Bitcoin maxi. I'm all about self-sovereignty, self-custody, Bitcoin only. And so that's the kind of general thesis that drives the decisions I make. But obviously, user feedback, if there's a lot of user feedback, hey, we want Venmo in there, like everybody's screaming at me, then, obviously that will go in. But yeah, for the most part, it's kind of, it's Bitcoin only really that I'm focused on.
Very cool. I think it's cool to have that convenience of whatever way that you want to pay. I mean, honestly, I never use Venmo. I don't know, but I don't know if I ever get $40 in my Venmo thing. I usually just send it to my Fold account. But
Yeah.
if it's in front of you and you have all these different options, right? I mean, maybe you want to pay through your Cash App, Maybe you want to pay through Venmo. I don't know. Maybe some people do, right? You have Bitcoin, you have Lightning, you have the Strike integration. You now have the Stripe with credit cards, which is huge.
Yeah.
And I just think it's really cool to be able to present someone with an invoice and then have all of those different options exist for how to pay. It's hard to find a service that does that. Okay, so speaking of, I got the two tough questions here. The monetization strategies, we're still going to talk about how this makes money, because in that $2 payment in that invoice I sent you, you're not taking a percentage of that. You didn't mark it up. You didn't take a flat 1% in there somewhere. You didn't, pad the quote on the price of Bitcoin or the exchange rate. And you certainly could have, and that's definitely a monetization strategy that I should have paid 2 cents or whatever for that $2 payment, and to use that invoice on a flat rate. That wouldn't have been a terrible thing to do. But what are some of your plans for monetizing Zaprite down the road?
Yeah, so I mean, you're right. The percentage cut on the volume that goes through is that's probably the way Zaprite will end up. The reason it's not in there right now is because that's very hard to do when you're non-custodial. So if I'm allowing people to connect their nodes running at home over LN bits, or their Strike account, there's no real way for me to become a man in the middle unless I actually like custody funds and then pass them on. Now there may be kind of ways around that. This is where I kind of like would need legal help to kind of like make sure that I'm not doing anything that I shouldn't be doing. But it's definitely the approach that I'm probably going to end up taking in the long run. And on that note, I'm talking to people right now who are actually, we're experimenting with, I mentioned the POS system before. We're kind of experimenting. I mean, I don't want to give away too much because we've got like this cool kind of feature that we're going to try and build out. And it actually works off like splitting Lightning payments percentage wise. So we can actually like take a Lightning payment in and then say like, 99.5% goes to the Zaprite user, 0.5 goes to Zaprite or whatever it might be. So there is options with that. With the Stripe credit card information, we can actually take any percentage fee we want on top of that as well. So if Stripe charges like 2.9%, we can actually add on with the integration that I've got now. Like Zaprite can actually add on any fee we want on top of that. We could add on 0.25%, 1%, whatever we want. I just haven't activated that right now. So the volume pricing is really the way that I would love to go. Again, it's just really hard to do right now without being like custodial in some sort of way. Like OpenNode can do it. They can take 1%, like Strike, all these people can take little fees, little basis points, because they're holding on to your money. I think the volume pricing scales really well, as opposed to SaaS tiers where, 20, 30 bucks a month might be palatable for somebody like living in the US, but it certainly won't be for somebody in like, El Salvador or Nigeria. So the volume just scales really well. It's a much fairer system. So yeah, in the background, I'm working away on those systems to try and get those percentage volume fees in there. That's ideally the way I'd want to go. In the meantime, I'm probably going to add SaaS tiers on to try out some pricing models and see what works for people. Because right now, as you mentioned, the payments are completely free because we're non-custodial. You just connect your account directly. So what we'll probably end up doing is offering, different tiers of access to the product. So you may have a free account where, you're limited to one invoice a month and it's only like on chain. Maybe, you pay, like an upgrade to $5 or $10 a month and you get a couple of extra features, unlimited invoicing. You can connect like Strike or, whatever it might be. And all the way up to like, an enterprise account where, you get like your own branding and everything, remove all the Zaprite branding, you get your own like subdomain, and you basically get your fully branded hosted payment page, just like a Stripe checkout page or whatever. So the SaaS tiers is probably what's going to be like the first to appear on Zaprite as the kind of first path to revenue, because I think there's enough features in there now where we can actually start like, separating features based on what users are willing to pay. And then, like I said, as well as the volume pricing, there's a couple of other things that we're actually looking into, which is like revenue share models with, say, the likes of Voltage, people like that, where we can actually like sign up users to these accounts, and we can get like maybe percentages of revenues if they're running nodes and things where they're being charged or billed by the day or by the hour. We can have things like that. I'm also talking to 3 or 4 of the companies that are offering virtual debit credit cards right now, because I think that will be a really cool feature to add into Zaprite, where, if you're running on Zaprite and you're running, 100% Bitcoin standard, but you've got a vendor that you need to pay, you got a bill, maybe you need to pay like hosting or, whatever it is you might need to pay in your business. So we're going to have this like integration where you can like spin up a virtual card. You can pay with Bitcoin, obviously, to fund that card, and then you can pay your expense. And there's a couple of really cool things we can do in there as well. Is like, one, you could put a small markup on those cards as well, and charge for that convenience. But also we can actually get access to that like UTXO, that transaction ID. So when they fund the card, we'll have it in our history, and then it becomes an expense that you can categorize within Zaprite. So it automatically feeds into all of the information that you need to see in your bookkeeping. And then down the road, there's like really cool stuff that we could think about doing, where we could do like tax loss harvesting and things like that, and optimizing your tax reporting, where it's like, oh, you got an expense, you need to pay $100 to like, pay this expense or use this virtual debit card. Well, here's the UTXO that you like got in from an invoice like 6 weeks ago, which will give you a slight loss, or there'll be no capital gain on this one, so use this one. And then we'll actually have like transaction broadcasting feature where we'll know how to get like what wallet is connected, and we'll just like allow you to easily click a button, spin up, and pay that transaction. So there's all really cool deeper integrations that can be done on that side of things. But again, yeah, I mean, that might be a long-winded answer, but to answer the monetization question, I think what we'll do is we'll start off with the standard SaaS tiers, try out a couple of different models and see what kind of features people will find beneficial, what they're willing to pay for, what they're happy to subscribe to. And then eventually, when we can get some really cool, native Bitcoin and Lightning functionality like key send and things like that, where we can actually split payments out, then we'll start looking at the volume processing fees, and then obviously looking at revenue share models and markups on like virtual cards and stuff like that. So lots in there, and yeah, lots to kind of think about and see what is the best path forward on that.
So to recap that, we have the potential monthly fee tiered plan. Maybe get people started with X amount of free invoices a month. Maybe you don't give them access to all the integrations. You're going to build out this point of sale system. That might be a premium product, or these one-page kind of landing pages where people can put up a storefront. I tell you, I would use that right now for the Bitcoin Blitz thing in 2 seconds.
A lot
because
of people are requesting that, yeah.
Squarespace does not allow you to do anything fun, period. And I would just rather have people click and it go to that Zaprite page that we can customize out for a storefront. That's a fucking premium product for sure. Right. That's worth a few dollars
or
a
even
month.
just giving you access to a public URL that you can just add some query strings on to, like, product equals amount equals currency equals, and then you just hit it and it takes you to a Zaprite hosted page, and somebody can pay that, and then you get a webhook back and you're done. Like simple stuff like that, I think is hugely beneficial.
Totally. And definitely a good revenue share on the partnerships, right? You can work deals with Voltage and all these kind of affiliate things, because that's what happens when you go to H&R Block, or when you use Intuit and QuickBooks or TurboTax. They give you 55, you have to click no, I'm not interested in like 55 things. Do you want a bank account? Do you want life insurance? Do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want this? It's like, no, 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 no. I just want to do this. So there's definitely a lot of potential revenue coming down the line for you with that. Also, some advertising stuff might help. So, all right. So let's talk about the big bad incumbents, right? Let's talk about the QuickBooks, all right, or even OpenNode for that matter. Okay. Well, first off, are you going to have a ledger type system where this is more of if I want to actually track other expenses and things, even a light version where it's maybe better than Excel spreadsheet, but not quite as like intense and like overwhelming as QuickBooks? Is there a way that I can just be like, I sold 500 apples today, and then I paid these three bills, and then are you going to do that sort of accounting software?
Yeah, absolutely.
Bookkeeping.
Bookkeeping, yeah, absolutely. That's the term I was just about to use. Right now, under the activity tab in Zaprite, like as it stands right now in the MVP, you can actually go in there and add a new transaction. And when you do that, it will show you this drop down box where you can select whether it's an income or an expense, and you can have a whole load of checkbox and categories that you can fill out the whatever the fiat currency was, what was the cost basis for this transaction, how much was it, all these types of things. So you can see there, yeah, if you choose expense on that. And then you can actually go through and filter a whole bunch of stuff and add in these custom transactions in
I
there
see.
into the ledger that's currently there. So that functionality is there already. And then the next step obviously will be like a really simple next step that we could do is on the dashboard page. We'll just like pull all these transactions and show you charts. Like, this is how much like money you took in May. This is how much expenses went out.
But
So
where does it keep a ledger? Where does it keep where would that be reconciled?
So right now they're just stamped into the database as individual transactions. So eventually we will build like a very light ledger system and bookkeeping on top of that to start off with. And so we can actually reconcile all that stuff. It's not being done right yet at the moment, but that's the next step on the accounting side of things is because we have all this transaction history there from invoice payments or expenses you manually put in. We can then do the reconciliation afterwards. But right now, yeah, right now they're just line items in the database, like transaction history.
Because
So,
that's a premium product. That's something that people would pay for, is
oh
that
yeah,
that light bookkeeping sort of stuff. Okay, so we're talking about Square. I'm sorry, we're talking about QuickBooks, Intuit, the big bad incumbents in the space. Now, this is a question from somebody in the syndicate. What is to stop them from adding Bitcoin or trying to eat your lunch?
there's nothing to stop them from doing it, and I would be surprised if they don't do it very soon. I assume it's just going to happen, but I just don't think they'll do it in a very Bitcoin native, intuitive way. I think, like I was saying before, I think these tools need to be thought of from the ground up. I think we need to approach these tools from like a Bitcoin perspective, rather than say adding like BTC as another transaction, currency into QuickBooks. They will do similar things, and they will obviously, because they're like a beast of an application. But I've talked to people about this, and some of the feedback I get is that like QuickBooks is actually, like I said, it's a beast. Like you got to do a lot of stuff in there, and you got to do a lot of setup, and it's very,
You got to take a class to learn how to use it. I mean,
exactly,
that's the first thing
exactly,
you got to do. Is you got to enroll in a community college to figure out how to
exactly,
use the damn thing.
exactly. And really, what I'm aiming for is, if you think of the way the kind of future is going, we're going into this kind of creator economy where people are self-employed, they're working for themselves, they got a lot of side income. Obviously, Bitcoin is going to be the future money. So you kind of combine those things, like an increase in the creator economy, Bitcoin as the new monetary standard. I think we just need tools that are built with that focus in mind. So somebody who's a freelancer, um, they're not really going to want to like set up QuickBooks and do like full on ledgers and connect their bank accounts and balance everything. Like they're just going to want to like see very basic light bookkeeping, at least to start off with. On okay, well, I sent out these invoices, I got paid in Bitcoin, like what's my cost basis for that? Like really simple stuff. And then like a easy like balancing the books, like reporting. But I think, like I said, the bigger incumbents will do this stuff. but I just think we have an opportunity to do it in a much better way, a much more streamlined way, and provide a really tailored kick-ass product that actually just offers what users need, rather than a whole bunch of stuff that they don't.
All right, I know we're rambling here, and I can't help myself, but I have a few more things I definitely want to get to. Okay, so what about OpenNode, right? Everyone loves OpenNode. They're beloved in the space. They have a pretty crude, not the best invoicing sort of component to OpenNode's site right now. Are you at all worried about them maybe making that more robust and kind of doing more of this invoicing stuff?
Not really, no. And the simple reason is, I think, like, Bitcoin market is exploding. Like, there's room for more than one player. That's like the kind of basic simple answer. But on another note, like, I've talked to a lot of people who've used OpenNode as well, and the general consensus is we might love them as a brand, we might love what they're doing, but a lot of people say that they just really struggle with the product. Like, it doesn't do what they need it to do. And so that's where I think somebody like Zaprite can come in and provide what users are looking for. And if OpenNode turns around and says, oh well, look what Zaprite's doing, like, they seem to be getting attention doing that, so we'll just add in this beautiful invoicing system and whatever else in there, that's just validation, one, for like what we're doing. That's obviously like we're doing something right. But two, it's a different model, right? Like, OpenNode takes I think it's 1% at least, but I think they even take 2%, because I think they take 1% each side on the payment and the recipient. But even if it's just 1%, they're like, it's 1%. They're fully custodial, KYC. Right now, Zaprite's non-custodial, non-KYC. So we're in that kind of like sweet spot between, you don't need to be really like tech savvy and set up and run your own node and run BTC Pay server and get the full sovereignty and freedom that gives you. And on the other hand, you don't need to go full KYC and full custodial and get charged 1% by OpenNode. OpenNode's great. Like, I mean, I like them. Great product. I'll integrate their API into Zaprite. But Zaprite sits in that sweet spot in the middle where, like, we can onboard all these users who, like I said, they don't have the tech experience. They don't want to do the full KYC custodial stuff. They just want this really simple, beautiful UI UX where they can, like, maybe, like I said, plug in, pay a few dollars a month, whatever the subscription is, and then spin up like a voltage node, whatever else they might need to accept their payments, connect their Strike account, their Cash App, their like Stripe for credit card payments. And then, yeah, just get a much better experience. So I think there's room for a lot of players in this market. And I think what Zaprite is doing, what I'm trying to do with the like custom integrations and allowing people to connect and build their own checkout page, and then offer all these, like I said, POS, donations, tickets, all that, everything. I really don't see anybody like coming in to do it at that level anytime soon. So I think it's a very unique kind of approach that I'm taking with Zaprite.
Totally. Just have to touch on it because it is a question that we had.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a question I ask myself all the time too. Yeah.
Okay, so before we get to what you're going to do with this money and who you're hiring and all that fun stuff, two quick specific use cases. We definitely have some traders and people who make a living that way. And, the accounting for that is a nightmare. So I just didn't know if this was maybe just an idea or just maybe a terrible idea. But did you ever think about working some sort of integration or being able to handle win-loss from trades and kind of settling that? Because there's a lot of companies in that sort of crypto trading, they do that, and you're kind of sitting near it. I just didn't know that if you ever considered it or even maybe thought of it.
I've thought of it for sure. Like you said, there's so many different products that are very close and very near Zaprite. So, like, I do think about them all. Something like that, I don't think I'm interested in looking at in depth, at least not right now. I think with Zaprite, I need to be careful that I don't kind of spread myself too thin and try and add all like so many bells and whistles. I think I've got like a really good idea of a solid, like useful product that I can offer right now and build like, real value from and incrementally add features that is, built around a specific purpose. So I think trying to like push out, branch out too early and do too many things is not a good approach. But yeah, I mean, like definitely looking at all this stuff. Like I mentioned before, like payroll is another one. It's kind of a natural next step where users can like corporations might set up an account under Zaprite, and then individual employees can come in and set up sub accounts and be connected to this account, and the users can have their own wallets connected in, and then whenever the business needs to do payroll, they just pay a Zaprite invoice and it gets split out over Lightning or whatever it might get split out. So there's definitely all these secondary products that I am looking at. The trading aspect of it is, I've thought about it, but not in any great detail because I just kind of like wrote it off as something that's just not important to think about right now.
The payroll is huge, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that industry.
And if you can get like a really slick Bitcoin like integration in there is, even just as something as simple as, how much is your payroll this month? Like you just go in and you like review it because you've got it all set up. This employee is paid X amount, this employee is paid X amount, and it's all the fiat. Like you could have people all around the world, different fiat currencies they're paid in. And then you just review it every month, click pay, and it'll just send you over to a Bitcoin payment or even a fiat payment. And then you pay it and then it just gets split out Bitcoin to all these employees. Now, a lot of that stuff, obviously, especially the fiat to Bitcoin conversion stuff, if I'm going to try and do that within an integrated payroll system, that will require, some kind of, internal, maybe it requires a money transmitting license, maybe it requires custody, maybe it doesn't, maybe it just requires maybe connecting with somebody like Swan through their API, and maybe just having some kind of partnership with an exchange where if we have some KYC customers that are also KYC maybe on somewhere like Swan, then we can basically just build a UI UX wrapper that like when they need to pay payroll, it just like it gets done because they're KYC on both sides. And Zaprite doesn't have to worry about it, right? Similar thing with the invoicing side of it as well. If somebody wants to send out an invoice and they're sending it to a client that doesn't have Bitcoin and they want to pay with a credit card, right now I've got Stripe integration, which is great, and hopefully the OpenNode integration with that will allow them to get paid. But what if I had some kind of arrangement with somebody like Swan or some other exchange that had an API, where if it was below a particular like KYC free level, like $1,000 a day per invoice or whatever, if the Zaprite user was KYC'd on Swan, then we could basically just have like, maybe a Prime Trust like credit card paid and page, and it would get paid, and then Zaprite/Swan user would get the money straight into their account in Bitcoin. It would just do an automatic purchase, like a smash buy or whatever, like through their new API that they've got set up. And then of course that brings in like revenue options as well, right? Because you're technically doing an exchange, but Zaprite wouldn't be an exchange because we'd be doing it through like through Swan or some other companies like API. So there's some really cool integrations down the line there on that side of stuff as well. But yeah, payroll, sorry, I kind of rambled off a little bit there when you mentioned payroll, but that's another exciting area that we could do a lot of integration with exchange APIs and stuff, but just give somebody a really, really slick like UI UX experience around that.
It's super exciting. The payroll is super exciting, and those companies just print money. Gusto, all those like startup HR payroll sort of normie companies. I think I invested in about 30 of them. That's a huge business. And any way that you can dip your toe into that market. Not only that, but I mean, have you ever issued a 1099 to someone easily?
I don't even know what that is. I mean, I do. Right. I'm joking, but like
well,
as a non-US, I've never had to deal with any of that stuff. But yeah, I know all these things that need to be done. Yeah.
It would be really cool to be able, in the same way that you can send someone a slick invoice through Zaprite, that you can just fire off a 1099 for anyone that you've paid more than $600, and just shoot that out there. Stuff like that would be really cool. Okay. And then lastly, before we talk about how you're going to spend all this money,
Yeah.
is the specific ticketing service, right?
Yeah.
Ticketing sucks. The Eventbrite, the whole process, none of them take, there's no one's taking Bitcoin, no one's doing any of it. I don't know the last time that you bought tickets for a Bitcoin conference. That's not exactly a fun, easy process as well. I think it could be better. With some of these other things, are you going to specifically build out some ticketing sort of tools? Because it's on your roadmap is something that you're working towards as far as ticketing goes. I'm just curious how that looks.
Yeah. Again, this is something that, when I first came to Austin back in September, and I started going to, the BitDevs meetups and Austin Bitcoin Club meetups. And I started talking to people who were, running events, and they were selling tickets for events, and they were using OpenNode. But OpenNode is like you said, it's crude. You can sell tickets, but it doesn't really do a great job. It doesn't give you great reporting on the other end. So again, that got me thinking of, well, like, there's a real hole to fill there with a ticketing system as well. If you can replicate something like Eventbrite, obviously just do it all over Lightning. And then you can even do like the check-in vouchers and everything for when people checks into an event. Like there's just so much cool stuff that can be done there. And so I think, naturally when I started thinking about the different things that I can like do, particularly when I spin off this Zaprite.me like front end for people, I can give them all these tools really easily. So just like doing a store where you can have some like basic products that you just click add new product. There you go. Like imagine this, system where it's like you get your zaprite.me domain and it's /events, and somebody lands on that page, they see all the different events, but in your backend on app.zaprite.com, you're just like new event, like meetup, whatever it might be. And then you can add your individual tickets like child, adult, early bird, whatever it might be. And then they just get shown. And then of course, I've already got the functionality. It takes you to a Zaprite invoice, it gets paid, it's connected to your wallet, like whatever it might be. But then imagine, the deeper integrations there we could have, where if you've got like say voltage connected in, you could say, well, here's a new event that I want to spin up tickets for, but I don't want this connected. I don't want this information like exposed to like the same like transaction IDs I'm doing for my invoicing. So like one-click integration with voltage, like spin up a new node just for the 3 weeks that you're selling the tickets and then spin it back down. Things like that. We could have a much deeper integration with somebody like Voltage or Greenlight, where a lot of these features just become, once you get the flow right for like one of them, it just becomes very easy to kind of add more on. Again, I need to make sure I'm just not getting ahead of myself and spreading myself too thin, but I just think a ticketing system is, a natural fit. And I talked to somebody recently who, who's a really big player in Vegas, runs a lot of shows and sells a lot of tickets, and kind of pitched them Zaprite, and his ears perked up when I talked about the ticketing side of it, because the amount of money that goes through Vegas, if you can bring a ticketing system there, where people can just like save 3% on every transaction, 2.5%, whatever it might be, that's huge. Like you can tap into a market like that. That's that would be a huge thing to kind of land a big client like that somewhere that does like a huge volume of ticketing. But even on a smaller basis, just Bitcoiners, just plebs, like running ticketed events and meetups and, selling t-shirts, whatever it might be like that they're doing, just offering these features like ticketing, POS, like donation pages, like, store payment links, checkout links, these type of things. If you can have a one-stop shop like Zaprite, where you can just literally spin up all these things with a beautiful UI UX, like click of a button, you've got, whatever it is you might need. I think there's a huge market there over the coming like years, where you can really like suck in those people who want to actually start using Bitcoin and are like, curious about it. It's like, well, here's Zaprite. We've got all the tools you could possibly need to like, run whatever it is you want to run, whether it's a small event or a small business or like your, freelance business, whatever it might be.
I love it. I love it for the ticketing. That's big.
Yeah.
If we do another unconfiscatable, I give you my word. We'll use your ticketing, and I
Yeah.
get you lots of ideas for that too. Like after you buy it, that little button that says "Save to your Apple Wallet," just keep it, just hit it, just goes
Yeah.
right in there. Okay, so who are you hiring? You're out, you're raising some money, you're making the rounds. You have 1031 investing in the round.
Mhm.
They're investing in a lot of amazing companies out there of Austin. What are you looking for? Are you still you're a solo founder? But is there anyone else on the team with you right now, or contract work, or have you just literally done everything yourself?
I've done most of the stuff myself. I do have the technical advisor, Nate. He is the VP of engineering at Bull Bitcoin. He's a good friend of mine that I've known from back when I was in Canada, when I started freelancing myself for Bull Bitcoin and verifying those guys. I met Nate, and he helped me with a lot of the initial setup of the tech stack and getting Zaprite up and running. Because this is the first time I've ever, built something myself, being a front end dev and tackled something like this. So he's been there to like lay the groundwork and the framework and build Zaprite at the beginning. And then he basically just showed me the ropes. I rolled up my sleeves and I built basically like 90% of what you see there right now. And then he's always been there to, help and jump in whenever needs be. And he's an advisor now, official advisory role with Zaprite, and he's going to help me build out the dev team. So he's got a really deep knowledge of Zaprite. He's been there from day one. He knows the roadmap. He's really passionate about the product. So he's stoked to come on board as an advisory role. And like I said, he's going to help build out the dev team, and that's huge because that's an area where obviously I don't have the necessary skill set to be able to like interview someone and really know like what their kind of level of knowledge and experience is. And so having him there for that is amazing. So we're in the process now, both of us, of interviewing for a full-time dev, full stack developer, to help build out a lot of these features that we chatted about on this call today. As a solo founder, obviously, like my time is limited, and my skill set obviously is limited. So having a full-time full stack developer on board will be a huge boost. So hopefully, we can get somebody on very shortly that will take over a lot of those tasks and build out a lot of those features and help with the roadmap stuff. And having Nate there, obviously, as an advisory role on that will be phenomenal. So that's one thing. There are a couple of small contract stuff that I'm working with people right now as well, just meeting different developers and designers and things around Austin. I kind of meet a lot of people with very particular skill sets that can help me do different things. But yeah, so the bulk of the money from the raise. Well, when I say the bulk of the money, I mean most of the spending, the expenses will go to just to pay that salary for the developer. And then put myself on a salary as well because I haven't had a salary for almost a year since I've been doing this. Been living off savings and credit cards and all sorts. So it'd be nice to get some money in. But yeah, my salary for myself, salary for a full stack developer, a couple of contractors, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Like we can keep it pretty lean for quite a while as we kind of just get our heads down and build out all these features. Like I said, a lot of the framework is already in place, so we don't need a huge team to build out a lot of the roadmap stuff that I've got. So between one full-time, maybe a junior front-end designer, some contract people, but that's about it. So I think the money, the money that I'm looking for in the small pre-seed should give at least kind of 12 to 18 months of runway. So I think that's kind of like where we're looking at right now.
All right, very cool. So he's still a one-man show, but he's hiring a full stack developer. So if you are that person, hit up John for your dream job. Okay. And I think that's pretty much it, man. There's been really no funding to date, right? This is your first formal fundraise. Is that correct?
Yeah, first formal did a very small friends and family at the beginning, tiny bit, but this is the first fundraising, yeah, pre-seed round. It's the first time taking money in.
Okay, very cool. And then finally, what's your relationship like with the plebs down there in the Pleb Lab? I'm not sure if you were in the first batch officially or if you were there. I know that you were working out of that space. I'm not sure if this office expense here that's in your deck with this fundraise. I don't know if you're going to continue to work out of the Pleb Lab space with Kyle and be one of those kind of co-working kind of deals with him. What's going on with you and the plebs?
Yeah, so Kyle, Carr, and Keon, like really amazing guys, like solid guys. When I first came down to the US in September, I'd been following Kyle briefly on Twitter, and I saw him talk about the possibility of setting up a co-working space in Austin for Bitcoiners. And so I reached out to him like a couple of days before I came down, and then again the day after I arrived, and we met for tacos on day two, and then the next day he offered me the first desk in the new Pleb Lab that was starting on the 1st of October. So I kind of landed on my feet with those guys, got straight in, got the first desk in Pleb Lab, just like a co-working desk. It wasn't part of any official incubator program, but they were kind of they wanted to kind of fill the desks and try out this incubator model. So you know they brought in a bunch of us Bitcoin founders. So yeah, I've been using that space to you know really kind of get the word out about Zaprite and meet investors, meet developers, go to all the meetups, meet other founders, designers, developers, everything. And the guys at Pleb Lab have just been phenomenal help in just really like pumping Zaprite out there to everybody. Really hardworking guys, really amazing, really salt of the earth, honest guys that have just been, I don't know where I'd be without them. I kind of feel like I kind of really landed on my feet when I came down here and met those guys and got the introduction I did and got the access to everybody within the Austin Bitcoin community. They've been a huge help in that. So yeah, really phenomenal. And then yeah, I guess to answer your question, the plan is when they hopefully get move into their new office. I kind of set aside some funds in the deck under the expenses because I thought this might happen in the future, where when they move in and they start their whole new incubator program. Obviously, all us guys that are in there right now will kind of get like bumped out to the co-working space. So I've got some funds in the business plan there for either paying for co-working or an office space. I think I might end up getting like one of the half a dozen offices that they've got in there in the new Pleb Lab. So that's going to be exciting. So yeah, I'm going to continue to work out of there and work closely with those guys because really solid crew. I consider them kind of really good friends right now, not just not just co-working incubator help, but just yeah, really solid guys.
All right. Well, here we are. That concludes our chat with John Zaprite, zaprite.com. Use it, check it out, get him some awesome feedback on it. This is his first formal round of fundraising. We are thrilled over here at Lightning Ventures to be able to help him out in any way that we can and support him and champion him and cheerlead him all the way. And I'm really excited about the roadmap. I'm really excited about all these other things coming online. And John is definitely the nicest guy in Bitcoin. So if you're down in Austin and you see him, make sure you chat him up and have a good hang session with him. He'll be around the Pleb Lab and all of those awesome Austin events that are down there. I think that's pretty much it. John, you have anything else that you want to add?
No, I mean, other than just to say thank you to you and the rest of the Lightning Ventures crew. we met a couple of months ago, and you guys were like so excited about the product from early on, and like you mentioned before, you've been using it yourself, and the feedback that you've been giving has been great. So I really appreciate you guys throwing your hat in the ring here, and it's been great. And like you said, like, yeah, just use the product, give me feedback. I love all the feedback I can get. After watching this video, if people have ideas, suggestions, like, just hit me up on Twitter or email. Let me know, because I really want to build something that's kind of like heavily focused on Bitcoin users' needs. So all the feedback I can get will be great. And yeah, so thanks to you guys for being early users and early feedback providers. So that's awesome. So thank you very much.
All right, John. Enjoy the rest of your day, buddy.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.
Awesome.